The true state of the Union is bleak. In this year's State of the Union address, President Joe Biden met the moment and deserves credit for what was a clear public relations success. However, Biden's optimistic vision of America's economy is at odds with public opinion, and his stated goal of finishing the job he was elected to do will be difficult, if not impossible, to achieve, given the Republican-controlled House. Despite these larger challenges, Biden delivered an excellent performance last Tuesday. He was energized and confident at a time when he needs to demonstrate his ability to withstand the rigors of another 6 years in office as the oldest president in history. Even Democrats are concerned about Biden's age. According to recent polling, nearly 6 in 10 Democratic voters would prefer someone else to be their party's presidential nominee in 2024. Biden's speech may have alleviated some of these fears, as he demonstrated remarkable coolness and quickness while being heckled by Republicans in the audience. Those moments also allowed the president to draw an implicit and significant distinction between himself and his political opponents. Biden came across as measured and pragmatic, whereas raucous Republicans shouted from their seats, prompting House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, to visibly shush his members. In terms of substance, Biden's speech mostly hit the right notes as well. He stuck to the centrist line, touting the major bipartisan laws passed during his first term, such as infrastructure investment and gun reform, accomplishments that, if nothing else, represent a rejection of left-wing politics and point the way forward for the administration legislatively in the next 2 years. To that end, the president explicitly urged Republicans on Tuesday to work together and find consensus on important issues in this Congress. Nonetheless, Biden's plea is unlikely to sway the House GOP caucus, whose most prominent members have made it clear that obstructing Biden's agenda and investigating the White House are their top priorities, rather than legislating. Despite Biden's best efforts, both rhetorically and substantively, to promote bipartisanship, the next 2 years in Washington will be marked by partisan squabbles, political investigations, and never-ending accusations leveled at his administration. There will almost certainly be few, if any, substantive achievements, and the president, his White House, and his family will face unprecedented scrutiny. Still, Biden and Democrats can advocate for incremental solutions to major issues, such as the cost of living, over the next 2 years, if only to draw a comparison with Republicans similar to the one we made during the Clinton administration in the mid to late 1990s. The GOP is only concerned with politics and partisanship, while Democrats are concerned with progress. Clearly, the most compelling distinction that Biden and Democrats can and should continue to draw is their party's commitment to protecting Social Security and Medicare, as opposed to at least some Republicans' willingness to cut these critical entitlement programs, most notably Senator Rick Scott, Republican Florida, and Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican Florida. Even if this positioning achieves nothing legislatively, based on my experience working with President Clinton, this contrast will invariably work to the Democrats' advantage on Election Day. While the inflation trajectory is largely beyond Biden's control, the more the president can do to make progress on keeping costs under control in an issue like health care, or, at the very least, demonstrate to Americans that he is making every effort to do so, the better this issue will play for Democrats in 2024. Last Tuesday, Biden proposed capping insulin at an affordable level, which is exactly the kind of targeted and politically viable reform that Democrats should push for over the next 2 years. Another similarly practical solution is rebate reform, which involves cutting out the middlemen in drug pricing to make drugs more affordable, lowering the cost of living for millions of Americans. Having said that, Americans' economic pessimism and largely negative views of Biden will likely limit his ability to use the presidency as a bully pulpit to persuade Republicans to collaborate on any legislation, even if there is broad agreement. Despite several notable accomplishments as president, the majority of Americans, 62%, believe Biden has accomplished not very much or nothing, including 2/3 of independents and more than 1/5, 22%, of Democrats. Only 1/3 of Americans, and even fewer independents, believe Biden is making the best decisions for the country's future. The president's approval rating is also low. Only 42% of Americans approve of him, and only 37% approve of his handling of the economy, data that contradicts Biden's optimistic assessment of the American economy. Last Tuesday, the president touted his administration's record 12 million job creations, as well as unemployment reaching a 53-year low of 3.4%. Nonetheless, the percentage of Americans who believe they are in worse financial shape now than a year ago is higher than at any time since May 2009, when the unemployment rate was nearly triple what it is now. These findings, taken together, highlight the enormous challenges Biden will face as he prepares to run for re-election. His efforts to highlight his administration's economic achievements in the first half of his term have fallen flat, while his agenda will be stymied in the second half of his term by the Republican-controlled House. Overall, while Biden's speech struck the right tone and tenor, his assessment of his administration's accomplishments and vision for America do not square with reality. Douglas E. Shane is a political consultant who advised President Clinton and Michael Bloomberg's 2020 presidential campaign. The End of Democracy? Is his book. Russia and China are on the rise, while America is in